call to order the Public Works Committee for December 4th. It is what, 6:35 to 6:36 p.m. I have myself, Ms. Carol King, Michael Reynolds. Yeah, everyone. And also have our Mr. Fleeman, our director, and our city administrator as well. All right. First of all, public comment. Do we have any public comment? Nothing online. All right. What do I hear on reading and approval of minutes? November 6th.
Motion to approve as submitted.
A motion.
Second.
Second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, like sign. The ayes have it. All right, let's go to reports of or communications from our city officers. Mr. Fleeman.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right.
It's now.
So for tonight, for reports, the city administrator and I wanted to bring to your attention something that we've been working on with the county. It started about 2 months back. The county inquired of us just kind of our understanding of, not understanding, but like they asked us if you had a, wish list, you had 10 projects in the city that you wanted to see get redone, what would they be? They were really cagey about it, but we made a list and gave it to them. And then they came back and they asked if we could give them our road inventory and our scores. And if you remember back in 2020, contracted IMS, we evaluated all our roadways. We gave them a PCI score. PCI is like score out of 100, just like in school. If you got 60, 65, you failed. 70 is a C, 80 is a B, 90 is an A. And so, subsequent to that time, we did the bond project. We've paved about a little over 14 miles of roadways within the city. We're just knocking it out of the park there. But we did take those PCI scores and our wish list and gave it to the county. And this was on the front end of them coming before county council saying, kind of initiating the discussions for the penny sales tax. I don't know if you're familiar with that on the county level. Greenville's seriously lagging behind in maintenance of its roadways, and it's not just a Mauldin problem. It's Travelers Rest. It's everywhere in the county. But the information that we presented got turned over to the county, and it didn't come from council. So we're trying to rectify that. I presented the list as we gave to the county. We had if we had 10 projects. You'll notice that only 2 of the roads in our 10 projects are actually city roads. All of the other areas that we felt like there were our wish list of things to get fixed in the city or things that are owned either by the SCDOT or by the county. And so at this point, we really want to turn this over for discussion, at the committee level and council level, because the county is going to continue to move forward with its presentation to at least get a vote on the penny sales tax for transportation purposes. And if they do, obviously there's going to be money involved for the districts themselves to get paving projects done. And the paving projects will be those that are SCDOT, county, and city. And so hopefully you've read everything I presented to you. Do you guys have any questions regarding my wish list, how I scored the roadways?
And just to be clear, it's not necessarily a road repaving. And just to kind of add a little bit of additional context to what Matthew's talking about is the county is really trying to ascertain and understand the problem. They don't have a solution just yet. They haven't identified whether it's going to be a pennies program or it's going to be a capital infusion program, but they were asking, what problems do we have out here? And the way that this is rolling at the county level is that they will be coming up with a solution at some point, probably next calendar year. And we just want to be ready. We want to have our council approved list that that is kind of our standing wish list of, hey, if we can find road money, whether it's at the county, the state, the federal level, this is where we would like to see these investments. And it could be from anything from resurfacing to actual road improvements, changing interchanges, intersections, things like that. So it doesn't have to be just a repaving project. And we wanted to start with this initial conversation tonight and then potentially take action on a list of recommended projects either in January or February, and then elevate that up to the city council.
I guess my only question would be, well, first of all, they'd have to, I guess November would be the first opportunity for a referendum on the ballot for the penny vote. So, if that's the plan to use local option money through the transportation tax, then would you entertain rating these, your wish list as to this is what would be our number one priority, 2, 3, or is it just, at that time, would it be up to the county to pick and choose?
I think we ought to rate it like our top priorities, what we'd like to have, rank them
That'll
1 through 10.
happen, but we can
Right,
make a
because
recommendation.
under a penny sales tax program, they actually would incorporate those specific projects into the referendum. And so it's not as though they will get the money and then they'll figure out what projects to do later. So we would be asked to submit projects, county staff would score them themselves internally, and then the committee would have to adopt, there would be a special committee put together to move this project forward. They would adopt the project list. And so it would be good if our list was our priorities. And then that way, as they score them and select them, they'll, we at least presented what we wanted done first. Yeah.
Thank you.
Charles?
Thank you, Chairman. I like the play on asking for 10 things and several not being within this city. I would say I would expand it to as you rank them, rank your in city, rank your out of city, and rather than have 10, I'd probably have 5 to 6 in city. So we're looking at things that we can directly have a reflection of funds that may possibly come out there, so we can be a little more surgical in what we're looking at within our boundaries. But to your point, several of these things affect every citizen that drives on our roads. So, but I appreciate the sleight of hand there. And that's all I would have is ranking it and then bringing it back.
Well, I think they're almost all in city. I think what Matthew was saying was that some are city.
Who's city owned?
Yeah,
Correct.
city owned.
Yep.
And I think that's a good idea. We could put city owned projects on there. Kind of rank. Yeah, we can break that ranking down.
So, Charles, you finished?
Yes, thank you.
I have a couple things on this. The one thing I did think of when we were saying this, and I don't know where the status is now with the World Auto, that traffic light potentially being there. Something to think about in the road. Secondly, I don't think them trying to add more taxes is going to go over well in Graham County. So I wouldn't hold-
If you remember, it failed about 7 or 8 years ago when they tried.
Yeah, I wasn't going to hold my breath on that one. And lastly, I think this is a concern I have, and it's because South Carolina DOT can't get what they have done, even though they have the money, because there's no one to do the work. And so I have some concerns with it. So just making it safe, but we can't get South Carolina. They're what is it? Don't ask us what to do. We're doing everything we can. We have nobody to do it. They basically told us that they'd love to do more, but they can't. So that's the only comment I had on that. All right.
It's certainly always advantageous to be prepared.
Yes.
Yeah.
One thing I've learned with the SCDOT is you can never predict what's going to happen.
Like the Inquisition.
So having all of our ducks in a row, having everything, being at the front of the line always has its benefit.
And so, and committee members or even other members in attendance tonight, if you see anything that's not on the list that you're like, oh, we may want to look at this one, send it to Matthew or myself, and we'll throw it in the hopper. And see what we-
Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We also, we piggyback the county's, contract to rate all the roads anyway, didn't we? So the PCI scores would be available for these requests, I would think as well.
Oh, for us to get what they
Yeah.
rank these
Yeah.
roadways as? I mean, we certainly can do that, but I mean, if you've ever been on Ashmore Bridge,
No-
Hamby.
No PCI needed.
Yeah, I don't really believe that it's gonna tell us anything we don't already know.
That's it, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions on this matter? Right, Build Better Butler.
Yes, sir, that's me. Thank you. Just wanted to kind of give the committee a real quick update. So the Build a Better Butler project is progressing. DOT is in right-of-way acquisition right now. We actually just received our appraisal for several tracks. It's actually all the tracks in front of City Hall, starting with the driveway into City Hall / Bohemian, all the way past the fire station at the old BB&T entrance. So we did receive that. Matthew and I are looking through it now. We just got it late last week. So we're not prepared to ask for the committee to make any decisions on that. We are still awaiting appraisals for the combined tracks 1 and 2, which was the parking lot in front of Bohemian. But we are aware that Bohemian, or at least the parking lot, is going to be losing 8 or 9 spaces. So we are formulating a plan on how we can incorporate that and make some changes, kind of where we have our angled in or our parking, our handicap parking right here in front. So we are looking at what some potential options are, how we can recoup those. But we don't have anything to present tonight for that. Once we get the appraisals in, we will, just like with, we just did with New Commerce Court, we do have to go through an ordinance process to be able to sell that right away to DOT. So we'll be doing that over the next few months, probably starting in January. We'll start looking at the appraisals, getting council's opinion on them. At first look, the amount feels right. I feel like we got a fair deal. Is about 110,000 is what they're offering, because in the front, the new right of way will come up almost to the semicircle of the of our sign out there. So that brick wall, we'll lose the brick wall. We'll lose. We'll have to relocate the PD sign. We'll have to relocate the Canine Memorial. And we're gonna have to relocate
The planner.
the planter, yeah, the little tree that's sitting out here. So all that'll be lost. So what they're giving us about 30-ish thousand for the land value, and then they're giving us 70+ thousand for the relocation of those items. So I think it's a pretty fair deal, but we're still reviewing it in detail. And one of the things that they actually gave us with it is a cost breakdown or an estimation of what they think it costs to all of that stuff. So that's what Matthew's reviewing right now and just saying, do their prices make sense? Are those built in reality and not, something else? So the big ones we're waiting on still will be the Bohemian Bull parking lot, and then tracks 205 and 229, which one is where the creek is, where you have that area through the creek, and the other is City Park. They did make an adjustment for us. One of the things that we were looking at in the design, because we had relocated part of the walkway at the park, at City Park, they were kind of matching up to the existing trail. There's a trail that's been moved. So we've taken that out. We've actually got them to extend the 10-foot multi-use pathway all the way to where the parking area is. So then that way there's a connection in the middle where there's a natural connection now to the sidewalk, and then there'll be a connection at the parking lot. So folks will be able to park there and jump on the trail and go either direction. So it makes a good trailhead, that parking lot right there. More to come on that then.
One other thing to add, and I should have got to you before, as part of Build a Better Butler with the sewer relocations, REWA is going to have to relocate their trunk main, these 2 parcels that we just discussed. And so their trunk main is on our property by easement. And so they're going to have to redo their right-of-way easement. So part of the property acquisition will also have an updated right-of-way agreement with REWA.
Questions? All right, we'll move on. Public comment. Oh, no, sorry. The unfinished business, there is none. And the GLDTC 619 sidewalk project.
You have in front of you is, I spoke about this last month. The GLDTC, reviewed our application and has come back and offered up, funds in the amount of $190,000, to go on top of the $1 million we got in state appropriations. And part of entering into the contract with GLDTC would allow them to be, not only the construction site supervisor, construction manager, but also the engineering services. So what this allows for us to do is to take our funds and this design and this package and have GLDTC manage it and run it and allow us to get as many linear feet as possible with the monies available through the state appropriations. If we had tried to do this in-house, a lot of that money would have been eaten up, like I said, with engineering, site management. GLDTC is going to manage everything. So what you have in front of you is we're requesting this participation agreement come out of committee to city council to allow us to authorize the GLDTC to manage the Miller Road Sideway project. As mentioned, they will do engineering services, bid advertisement, contractor selection, project management. The cost for this is pretty much what we've already put in. It's our $1 million that we got for a state appropriation and anything overage. Overage would be, I mean, at this point, we're gonna get what we want. But if there's something more, we could always get more. So my recommendation is to take this out of committee to city council and to authorize the participation agreement.
And Mr. Chair, can I add one thing real quick? Just, this is slightly different than our typical GLDC agreement where we're sending them money on a regular basis. In this instance, we're holding on to our $1 million and then they'll send payouts to us. So we won't be transferring. So that way, if the project comes in under $1 million, we can put the remaining balance into some other sidewalks.
Yeah.
Probably not building new sidewalk, but repairing existing sidewalk for leftovers.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make the motion to forward to full council the recommendation to approve the GLDTC participation agreement for the Miller Road Sidewalk Project.
A motion,
A very firm second.
a second. Any discussion?
Let's go.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign. The ayes have it. This moves to full council. All right. Next item, public comments. Any additional public comments? Committee concerns.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Not a concern, but just recognizing our staff, I guess it would be the ground staff, for the work at the cultural center. If you hadn't been out there, there's new sod, the pine straw's gone, and I understand there's flowers that may or may not have an M that will be designed. Yes. So thank you, Matthew and staff, for that. It's a very pleasant new look out there. Waiting on that grass to be green come April, May. Okay.
Repainted if necessary. All right.
Thank you. The only thing I would add is just appreciation working with GLDTC on projects like this for, these kinds of projects are expensive, hard to work with and all that stuff. And so certainly appreciate Mr. Fleeman, your work as well as the participation with GLDTC in securing funds and working out ways to get the maximize what we're actually getting out of it.
Yeah, and we still will have oversight. I still will have to review every invoice for payment. We'll still have our hands involved, but this will certainly allow us to get the most bang for our buck.
Been around you long enough to know you'd have to be involved somehow. But this exercises some flexibility with dollars. It's important. So, thank you.
And Mr. Chairman, if I could, they're in the survey process right now. Survey has been ordered. I'm hoping that we can do a dirt turning ceremony probably in the spring. But my goal is and my hope in working with Co-Transco that they said that the sidewalk should be installed by summer, but hopefully installed and done by the time kids go to school next year.
All good news.
Only comment is very. This coming. Thank you. All right. Any concerns?
No, Mr. Chair.
All right, what do I hear on adjournment?
So moved.
Second.
Second, any discussion? Discussion? Those in favor say aye.
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 Those like sign, ayes have it. We are adjourned.
We will go ahead and call the Recreation Committee meeting to order. Everybody representing committee is here, as well as our department. Well, we got Willie tonight. All right, so sometimes that's better. That's not a slam against Bart. First up, we have public comments. Is there anyone who is online or in person who would like to give public comments regarding recreation? Oh, guy over there. Ah. Please come to the podium, state your name and address.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee members. I'm Terry Merritt. I live at 214 Fairfield Drive in the city of Mauldin. The process that has been involved for the last few months involves the naming of a bridge that was built by the city of Mauldin in partnership with Hughes Investment. Bridge is built and lit. Beautiful bridge. Catches a lot of comments. Also media comments. This committee has been charged with coming up with an appropriate name. I think the staff had a very well representation of a group of people who went through I think it was 2,000 submittals from our media campaign to come up with appropriate names. And once they had done their job and brought it down, they came up with 5 decent names. Like anything else, any particular name is not going to get 100% commitment on anyone. But they did that job, and it came before this committee to look at those names and discuss them. Committee wanted input from council. They sent it to full council for input. There was some discussion and council tabled it till the next month. So they also came back last month and discussed it some more and sent it back to this committee. So now that this committee has it back and they've had council input, I think they've come down and think they've got a top 3 names. So I'd ask this committee to do their due diligence and consider this. That bridge and name will still be called a lot of other things. Whether it be a pedestrian bridge, a bicycle bridge, a shortcut over a major interstate. But from my standpoint, I look at it and see that it does represent a gateway for the east side of Mauldin, even though it's a Simpsonville address, and the city of Simpsonville, and the city of Fountain Inn, to now be able to come across a major interstate, join Mauldin's trail segments, and get to ICAR, which was, best I can remember, was always the goal of the Swamp Rabbit Trail committees and various groups, that if everybody would focus on getting to ICAR, then they'll decide where they want to take it from there. But at least it would connect Travelers Rest, city of Greenville, city of Mauldin, now the east side of the city of Mauldin, and along with Simpsonville and Fountain Inn. So it represents a fantastic gateway for the Golden Strip. So it now allows Fountain Inn and Simpsonville and the east side of Mauldin, even though it's Simpsonville, to also have the freedom to walk safely across an interstate and ride their bicycle across a major interstate. So now they have the freedom to do that. And that freedom also represents the fact that we live in the greatest nation on earth. And our freedom has been guaranteed to us by a lot of people. And I would like to see us honor that by also looking at one of these names and inserting the word freedom in it. So if you would consider, just for discussion, in your detailed discussion you get ready to have a little bit later on, Mauldin Freedom Gateway Bridge will be a phenomenal name in, as I was told many years ago when I joined this group, in one man's opinion. Okay, thank you, Mr. Matney. I appreciate that. Words of wisdom many years ago. So I would ask you to look at that. But I also would ask you now that, you know, I'm a strong proponent of our standing committees, your discussion and your detailed discussion, and your challenges to staff and anyone else to be sure you fully understand and know where you're heading. I've heard the comments about somebody could jump off the bridge. Well, bridge is road. Bridge is road. Bridge is a few hundred yards away. They could have jumped off it, but as long as I've lived here, nobody's done it yet. The new gateway out at 85, 385 and all that. Nobody's jumped off that yet either. So I'm not encouraging anyone to set a precedence, but I'm just saying from that. Also, I've heard that, well, if we name it, we only get one shot at it. Well, I can take you between here and Owens Gray Court and show you every interchange has a name on it. So when people give you directions, they say go down to 418 and exit on the 418 and go in the Fountain Inn. They don't say exit at the Charles B. Garrett interchange or whatever it's called. I got all the names confused. But if you work your way back up, they're all that. Fairview Road, where they tell you to get off. So I know when I go from here to Simpsonville, I don't take South Main. I take 276 and veer off on 417. But there's other names for it. I just don't do it. So I'd ask you to look at the names, discuss them. But let's move forward and let's name the bridge. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment here or online? All right, hearing none, we have reading and approval of the minutes. What says the committee?
Move for approval.
I hear a move for approval. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Any corrections? Hearing none, all in favor of a reading and approval of the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. We'll now move on to the reports from Willie.
Good evening, committee. How y'all doing tonight?
Tough crowd.
So we got a list of things that we have coming up in the recreation department. One that we'll be doing is having a senior outreach with Miller Oaks Senior Living Community on December the 7th. We'll actually be interacting with the seniors and playing bingo with them on that day. we're actually in the progress of working with Public Works on getting quotes for the South Carolina State appropriation funds that we have for the senior center, as far as projects we have scheduled there. Also working with the police department with the Toys for Tots wiffle ball tournament that's this weekend as well, December the 9th. And I would say in the last year, we've had an uptick of youth sports in general. And this year basketball is up 100 kids. So we're at 570 participants for basketball this time. We had 481 last year. So that's a big change of participants. Not only having participants, now you have parents and you have grandparents. And in the last month or so, we've had problems with the interaction of parents with other parents, parents with officials, parents with coaches. So we made sure this time to make sure we send out information to everybody. It's about sportsmanship, being positive parents with school programs, and engaging effectively with parents. And all parents got sent a code of conduct, information of what the checklist of what they have to do to be able to stay in the gym and watch the games. And we hope to post those in the gym and outside on the doors before the games start. The basketball jamboree is December 8th and the 9th. That's this weekend. And spring sports registration, because we jump right into basketball and we jump right into spring sports. Spring sports registration start January the 1st for baseball, softball, lacrosse, and flag football. We are working right now with the fitness equipment, going through all the data and information that we have, try to nail down one selection by the end of the month. We have a couple in mind already, but hopefully by the end of the month, we'll have that taken care of. And being part of Keep Greenville County Beautiful and being on the anti-litter campaign, the City of Mauldin will receive an $825 check or so at the beginning of the year to help fund any gifts that we want to give out to the volunteers or to help promote our litter programs.
Thank you very much. Any questions? Yes, Mr. Matney.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First, Willie, I want to say thank you again for really spearheading the city cleanup over the past couple of years. It really has made a difference, and I hope that I know that we've got a lot of high school students who've taken advantage of that for service hours, but I know that we also have a lot of residents that have joined in with that because they just they don't want their city to be a trash dump and really want to dress it up. And I thank you for spearheading all of that. Going into basketball very quickly, I know that, again, the numbers are up almost 100. You talk about the code of conduct that you hope to have posted. What do you intend to do to make sure that code of conduct is enforced, and not just with our parents, but our visitors?
Well, we always have staff there as well, but we also have the police helping with us, partnering with us. Help if we have any situation that get volatile to a certain situation, that they can step in and remove that person. And we'll keep track of who needs to be removed and will not be able to register. If their child is playing for next time around, they won't be able to come back.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Reynolds.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. With that jump in the amount of kids, certainly real estate's a big concern with basketball courts.
Yes.
What are we doing to?
We have it handled at this point. We're running 7 days out the week. Practice is going on Saturdays to about 5 or so. Sunday to about 6 or 7, just depending. But we figured a way to cut down on the court usage. 6-year-olds, we split the court. 8-year-olds, we split the court. Now we're having to get up to the 10s and split, which kind of results in a problem because they won't get a full court to practice on during the year, and then they'll play a full game as far as pressing and everything else during the year. So at this point right now, we've controlled it. We get any more, it's going to be a problem where we play them. We have games the latest game is at 7:45, maybe 8 o'clock. Don't want to get anything past that because then we're working on school the next day, 10, maybe getting home at 11 o'clock. That results a problem with parents and having to place these kids in games earlier. Also, the uptick of younger kids, like the 5 and the 6-year-old, presents a problem because they have to play the early games. So we have to make sure that they have their early slots compared to the older kids. We have a good amount, but we have a lot more the younger variety. So, but we got everything worked out this year. We got everybody in, everybody's practicing, but future could be a problem. Because the essence of the time during a weekday, we will not go past a certain time having those kids on the court practicing basketball.
Yeah, so at some point you're certainly at a capacity. I gotta think you're pretty close because
Yes, we're really close.
in our experience there, I think there were 400 and some odd kids as
Yes,
well. And
yes. So we added 100 and we got the schedule to work how we needed to. But if we had maybe 600, a couple more things, we'll be in a kind of on a bind of where we can put people at.
I'm assuming you're starting to think down that road already.
Yes, we are. We are trying to move forward on if we need space from the high school
Mhm.
or anywhere else to try to alleviate that pressure from a church or something, to alleviate the pressure of having those kids participating in sports that late.
Good. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Reagan.
For the Christmas parade that got moved, do you have a plan for the December 8th through 9th tournament and the parade?
Yes, so I talked to Mr. Duncan about that Saturday actually. So everybody for the games will be in by 12:30 because pictures for that last game is at 12:30. So concept is we won't have anybody trying to travel through to get to the gym during the parade time. At the end of the game, it may be a little hiccup, but in talking to Mr. Duncan, we can get everybody down Murray. So we'll only be at the sports center that day. We can go off the backside of Murray and just kind of exit them out that way.
Are we still running adult basketball?
We are not at this point.
Mr. Chairman, I was actually just texting with Chief Miller, and we're going to have another coordination meeting tomorrow just to kind of go over and make sure logistically that we can get folks out on Murray and as the parade is ending. So kind of keep everyone safe. Yep. And Willie, do we still have a wait list? Or
We do have a wait list for basketball. Yeah, in certain age divisions, we do.
Oh, okay.
That's always okay. I think that's it. Thank you, Willie. All right, up next is unfinished business naming of the pedestrian bridge. You can see that on page 5 in your packets. Lauren is in the house, I think. Yes, there she is. So we can bring her back up if we need to. Just to remind everybody where we stand with this. We talked about it here at our recreation committee. We brought it up to full council. At the last meeting of full council, the mayor was absent and Ms. Kuznar was having technical difficulties at that time. So that was a recommendation to bring it back down to recreation to give us more time to be able to talk about these names. So from what we had discussed Mauldin Hop, Mauldin Gateway Bridge, Mauldin Skyway Bridge. We heard from the mayor this evening. I know that Mr. Kraling at the last council meeting mentioned about creativity, getting some more creative names, that sort of thing. So I think we have a couple of options here. We can certainly bring it back up to council for final approval. We could send this back to the naming committee. And the only reason why I would suggest that is if creativity was the important thing here, I don't know if we set them up for success. That really technically wasn't one of the things of the 7 items that we gave them. And trying to reach all 7 is going to be very, very difficult. Or we can explore additional options. So I'll just open up the floor for further discussion if there's, and Mr. Matney, we'll start with you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have had lists of names and we've gone through them and no action has been taken. And I think that part of that is because no one has been overly excited about anything that has come out. I know that there is one name in particular that has generated buzz throughout social media, through local traditional media, and tangentially, we've gotten some national media coverage, as a result. Now, that popular name is not going to be the permanent name of said bridge. Um, but I agree from a creativity standpoint that, we are proud of who we are. We are proud of the development that we're seeing, and we have wanted this bridge to be a statement piece. And I think when we use words like fine and okay to describe the list of bridge names that have been thrown about, that we deserve better than fine and okay. There's one person in this room who tells me on a fairly regular basis, just tell me what name to put on the plaque. I'm not going to say who that person is. Um, and I know that there is a sense of urgency among other members to get the bridge name, but the reality is, um, the bridge that is going to Bridgeway, we will not likely have an official opening or ribbon cutting until spring, which means we are under no rush to name said bridge. We have time to do this right. We want Bridgeway to be active, vibrant, and they're looking at early 2024 for a lot of those retailers, restaurants, entertainment venues to come online. So, we don't have to move just yet. My thought would be, and I've discussed this with the administrator, is potentially looking at retaining a branding firm to actually help with the creativity and enlisting professionals to work with us on this. When we opened up the bridge naming discussion for public input, that was strictly for input. There was never a guarantee that it was a contest or that, one of the names would be selected as the overall winner, and that would be what the bridge name is. I think that we have heard a lot from the community, and we want this to be done well. We want it to be done right. In bringing up a retaining a branding firm with the administrator, one of the points that he brought up, and correctly so, is we have no idea what that would cost. And again, he's right. But I think that if we were to put out an RFP or an RFQ, we would very quickly find out what that cost would be. I think we could, if it's nothing staggering, we could probably look at it from, and Holly, don't shoot me. Holly's not here, so she can't shoot me. But we look at potentially funding that from H&A, because that's exactly what it would be used for. That bridge is about connectivity and bringing people to Mauldin from not just our sister cities, but from those people who are visiting our area from far away, who read the travel magazines that say that all things Greenville County are wonderful and they want to come see, what we have. So, it is about bringing people here. So, I would certainly be in favor of us issuing an RFP, or at the very least exploring what the cost could be to retain a branding firm, so that we have professional creatives who could help guide us through the process, and that we get it done correctly. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Mr. Reynolds? Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would agree that maybe we didn't exactly charge the public or the committee with being creative, but there were 2,100 names on there that lots of them would be considered creative by the eye of the beholder. I looked at it, and it's one of those things that I do think we can talk it and talk it and talk it and talk it and drag it on. There probably will not be a consensus on the day that we vote on this. I think the names presented, the three that we have, are great names. I wouldn't say that I'm in the category of going all three are fine. I have two that I think are. I have one that I think's great. I think one that I think's fine, and one that I don't like, and could rank them in an order. So, I don't know, while I understand Mr. Matney's point, we've got some time on it. I do wish if we were going to bring in a marketing firm, we would have coincided with the public outreach and coincided. So that's something that we would have already had done. I would be completely fine with moving a list of names forward and ranking them and having council do the same. 1, 2, 3, the one with most votes wins. If that's not what this committee desires, I'm just one vote. So, but I still think the Gateway Bridge is a great option. I thought from the list that was presented early on, I thought that was the one that described that bridge and its intention and its function. And I thought it described that from the get-go. So my opinion of that one hasn't changed, but certainly if there's not the votes to move this forward to talk about it or have it as a vote, then that's that. And that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Lauren, can we ask you a few questions? Thank you. So when you presented to council, you and this recreation committee in particular, you walk through some of the reasons why you chose the names that you chose and eliminated many of the names that you didn't consider. Can you tell us a little bit about the overall discussion? How many times did you meet? What was your feeling on coming out of those committees? I mean, you landed on 5 names, right, that you presented to council, but I was just curious if there was any additional feedback you wanted to give us that you hadn't already presented.
Well, we met 2 times. The first time, I don't have my notes in front of me, I'm sorry, but the first time, we basically went over the process and kind of went over the timeline and the criteria for what we were going for. And then the second time we actually got together, went through all the names. Everybody had kind of put together their top 10 list. And so we kind of got together and looked at all of the different top 10s and kind of whittled those down to the list that we gave to you guys. The second part of your question, as far as if something was missed or there was.
Let me follow up with a different question. In the process of going through, were there any names that came about after you guys have done your top 10? Did you guys say, well, wait a minute, this just popped in my head, let me throw this one out? Or was it all strictly based on the list of names that you had received?
There were a couple of names that people kind of came up with on their own, or maybe like different names on the list sparked ideas that people then used to, sort of create their own name. I think the majority of the names came from the list that was submitted, but then people did have the freedom to, if they wanted to kind of play around with different names or kind of use a name that was submitted as a springboard for something else, they could do that. And so each person had the opportunity to list their top 10 names. And there was no specific directive that it had to come from the list. But the list definitely was kind of, it's kind of like, let's go through this. Let's look at the patterns, look at the different themes. What are people saying to us with the names that they're submitting? What are the names that are sort of moving more in the right direction of what we're looking for? What are the types of names that we want to stay away from? The list was really helpful in kind of helping us to see what was working and what wasn't working in terms of the types of names. Like one thing that really popped out at us was we don't want to name the bridge after a person necessarily, because there's just, number one, we wanted it to be more forward looking, not really memorializing a person, but also there's a lot of potential for controversy with naming the bridge after a person. And so, seeing there definitely were a lot of submissions that were based around a particular person or particular people. Seeing that kind of helped us realize, okay, maybe that's not the direction that we want to go in. And then we kind of looked at, what are the names that are more in the direction that we do want to be heading. And then from there, some people did come up with their own names, but I would say the majority, and I think in the spreadsheet, there's a tab that actually shows each person's, top names. So you can kind of get a sense of, and each person kind of had their own, some people were looking for the more flowery, ornate type of name. Some people were looking for, you know, more more of a straightforward type name. So you can sort of see that everybody kind of came at it with from their own sort of angle. But when we came together as a group, we said, what are the names that really kind of exemplify these criteria and really are the best fit for Malden? And I would also like to point out that a lot of the submissions did have the word Maverick in them. And that was something that we definitely noted. And we kind of struggled with that because if you're looking for something that is connected to Malden and says Malden, Maverick says that. But at the same time, there are already a number of Maverick, we have Maverick Station, Maverick Yards, Maverick Biscuit. And so we didn't necessarily want to put another Maverick in the mix, but yeah, so we did start to see some patterns, and we did try to, steer towards what do we feel is sort of meeting all of these criteria, and not something that's going to upset anyone or cause controversy or potentially get us into trouble down the road. So I do think the names were rather safe.
Any questions for Lauren besides what I asked? Mr. Matten?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Lauren, yeah, I know that we can get list of names and come up with a top 10, but if not everybody likes the list, is it the top 10 best of the worst? Are there any names, or were these three names? Did anybody just jump up and say, I'm excited about this one? This is it. This is what we need to name it. I mean, was there a name, or were these names where people really got excited about it?
The most popular name, I would say, among the committee and also among staff, because I did float the names to staff and I asked for their feedback. What do you guys think? Do you have any favorites, least favorites? The most popular was Skyway or Skywalk or some variation on the sky concept. The second most popular was Hop, but Hop also created the most division. There were people who were strongly in favor of Hop, and there were people who were very much not in favor of Hop. But I would say those were the two that generated the strongest reaction.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Clearly, I wasn't on staff.
Thank you, Lauren. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
So based on our conversation, when we look at the 7 points that we gave the selection committee, we said unique, connected to Malden, descriptive, memorable, catchy, inclusive and community focused, non-controversial, and forward-looking. And it's going to be tough to reach every single one of those with any given name. And having been in the business of doing rebrands, I also know that it is a constant brainstorm. And I don't know if as Lauren said, even she said they were safe. I don't think that's necessarily wrong or incorrect or a bad thing. We are City of Mauldin. We want to make sure that we have something that is representative. And there's many ways that we can get creative on the back end if we decide to go with one of these three names. I'm also of the mindset to what Mr. Reynolds said is, could we pass this along to a marketing agency or branding agency? I would love to have done that on the front end. I don't know if we need to do it now on the back end. So I think there's still some creative things that we can do with how we dress up And I know you're talking about a plaque. Well, now I've outed. I'm sorry, Mr. Matt. I know we're talking about a plaque, but there's other things that we could do to really make that entranceway sing into that trail or into the bridge.
Yes, sir. And that actually was giving me an idea as you were discussing that and thinking, saying that is that kind of piggybacking off of Mr. Matney's idea. You know, we could do an RFP, RFQ, which doesn't cost us anything. It's a no commitment opportunity. To look at a branding strategy for the bridge and trail. I mean, we're building Mauldin trail segments to the Swamp Rabbit Trail. I've got an idea of what we could call each trail segment, but we are building a catalog. We've got the David Bates Greenway, which isn't really well known. We've got the Mauldin trail segments that connect to the Swamp Rabbit Trail, but we could look at a branding company to help us kind of brand our trail and our trail program. And with that, we could add a name for the bridge that fits with that brand or that theme that we're creating. It's just an idea. But that's what I was thinking of as you were saying that after what Mr. Matney said. If we were doing it just for the bridge name, maybe it's a little late, but I think about the broader strategy of what we're trying to do with our trails. Tuck in very nicely, I think. And I mean, there was a lot of being on the committee and hearing the discussion. We took a lot of time that first meeting to really understand what inspired Bridgeway and what Phil did with how he branded that and how he came up with that and worked with a marketing firm to do that. And so we did that. And then if you remember the very first agenda summary, it had the 5+ alternatives or variations. There was a lot of expression of ideas and, hey, well, what about this and what about that? And so we wanted to make sure that all of that was kind of conveyed in that first document. But in thinking about what we're doing with our trail segments and how we're connecting them, it might make sense that we can get this done the next 90 to 120 days to have a company come in and paid for out of H&A that can help us strategize and brand our trail segments, our trail and where we're going with that. Or you could just vote on a name and I'll put it on the plaque. I'm just playing.
Yeah. To go back to one of our discussions that we had at full council that I brought up then, which is, I think we're searching for a name that will distinctly say Mauldin, but we know that Mauldin will be dropped. The name Mauldin, when we talk about it, whether we call it the Mauldin Skyway, Mauldin Archway, Mauldin Hop, whatever it may be, that will eventually most likely be dropped in our lexicon. And I think that's also why, as Lauren just pointed out, that a lot of the submissions did have Maverick in it. Because if you're going to associate something with the city, that's the closest thing that we have to a thing, which is that lovely bull, right? But she also made a brilliant point as well in terms of we have a lot of Mavericks around, Maverick Station, et cetera. So what is the pleasure of the committee? We can continue to discuss too, and I can discuss my thoughts on Hop, Gateway, and Skyway.
If you're looking for a motion, my motion would be, and tell me if you want me to stop. Otherwise, I'll keep going. My motion would be that we take Mr. Duncan's suggestion that relates to both the trail segments and the bridge, and pursue an RFP, RFQ for a branding firm that can help us with the overall strategy of all of those pieces and move that forward to full council.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second it for discussion.
Okay. We are now in discussion.
Mr. Chairman, may I, would it be possible instead of elevating a vote on that to council, we could develop and issue the RFQ at the staff level, get the results back, report back to the committee, and then the committee, then if it wants to pursue it and move forward, would push the contract up.
And then I'm fine to rescind my motion if you'd like, Mr. Chairman, if we want to go down that road.
That sounds good to me.
All right, then I rescind my motion.
I'll rescind my second.
You could still vote on it if you want. It just wouldn't go to council. It just, we wouldn't elevate it. We would get the work done, then bring it back to you first to figure out, do you want to go forward with it or not?
Okay.
We're exploring this.
So at this point, you have your marching orders?
I'm good. You
You
could
need-
still vote. I would have just dropped off the to council part on that motion. So, but if I'm good at moving forward with what the committee's discussing to bring back more information for y'all to discuss.
Go ahead and re-clarify, Mr. Matney.
All right, then I would authorize the administrator and or his designee to explore the RFP, RFQ for a branding firm to assist us in overall branding of bridge and trail strategy and report back to the Recreation Committee.
I have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Any discussion? Any further discussion? Mr.
I think
Reynolds?
just a comment real quickly. I think, maybe I'm in the construction side of things, so I see the creativity on the production of the thing, not necessarily the naming of it. So, I'm all in we want to do it right. We want to have the right name. We want to do all those things, but at some point, I think there are some really good options, and we can talk about it for a long time. I didn't have the same, when we were naming our kids, I didn't have the same leeway that I have here. So maybe it's just the eminent power that I have. But I think I think we have three great options, and we'd be happy to have had those as a vote at council. So, and that's all I have to say, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Okay.
I'm sorry, let me follow that up real quickly. I think what you're suggesting is a good idea if you're trying to encompass the entire trail system. If we're going to try to brand it as something bigger than some hodgepodge trails. So certainly being forward thinking and trying to think through this problem, I can appreciate trying to wrap it up into that as well, Mr. Duncan. That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay. So we had a motion, we had a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
No.
The ayes have it. All right. That leads us into new business. There is none, and there's a second public comment period. So you want to give public comments? No? All right, no public comment. Any committee concerns? Mr. Matney?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to go back to Mr. Stewart's discussion of increased basketball numbers. They're already seeing issues, and I trust that Willie and staff and our police department, you don't have to get up this one, will do everything in their power to make sure that peace is kept at our facilities. My plea goes out to parents and the guardians and all those in attendance at the games. I have watched over the years and have said that oftentimes the worst thing about youth sports is adults. My plea is this: behave, people. It's not that hard. Cheer for your kids. Don't threaten the refs. Don't threaten the coaches. Don't threaten the kids. Enjoy the game. Act like grown-ups. Act like parents. Act like grandparents. Just do what's right. It's not that hard. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Matney.
Second that.
All right. Up next, we have adjournment. What says the committee?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All right. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned at 7:40.
You're up next. If you can set a record, Cash.
All right, we're gonna go ahead and keep this train rolling. It is 7:41. EPD is called to order. Everybody's here that needs to be here. And first public comment period. Does anybody have anything they want to say? Do we have anybody online? All right, then what do I hear on reading and approval of minutes?
So moved.
All right, we have a motion from Ms. Kuzner and a second from Mr. Kraling. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. And the minutes are approved as submitted. Reports, communications from city officers. Here's where we slow down. JR.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I only have 6 pages and 48 slides, so this will only take about. No, I'd like to give you basically a 6-month recap. I don't have any action items that are going to come through, but it's been 2 or 3 months since I was last in front of you. We've done a lot. We've done a lot, not just on the cultural center side, but also on the economic development side. So I will try to be brief yet detailed. The first thing is that we have our capital improvement updates. We finished the upfitting of the indoor auditorium that had permanent lights, microphone ownership, and we completed that just about 3 weeks ago, right when November, right before Thanksgiving wrapped up, and we used them in the holiday spectacular. So if you've seen that yet, that is a hot mic. That's a little sample of what it was. For the safety and security line item update, we finished collecting all the quotes. We were waiting on the electrical quote for the amphitheater to come in. It finally came in, so I'm trying to finalize a memo that I want to give to you guys at next month's meeting so you can see what the total cost of the programming is for that safety and security line item. Once you're comfortable with where those prices are, then we can start issuing RFPs to go out the door and hopefully start getting some construction done about March, April timeframe for that piece of it. Some examples, like I say, the electrical in the amphitheater, improving the front steps, taking them out and putting nice, safer inclined steps. Lighting upgrades, door security are just a few things that are on that line. So that's capital improvement updates. Getting into the cultural center itself for programming, Amped Up Fridays, rebranding was a big success. We kept the beach music while putting some diversity of music in there. Food trucks and guests all gave positive feedback. Average attendance about 1,200 people per show. The barbecue cook-off, record number of cookers, everybody was satisfied. Crowd was courteous and festive. We had enough meat this year, so no stampedes. That was nice. Transitioning the tickets instead of tasting passes, and then we added new features and had record amount of sponsors. As far as expenditures, we spent $54,169. We took in $41,293 in revenue. So to put on that 2-day festival from an investment standpoint was about $12,800. Not bad for a 2-day event that gets one of the best barbecues festivals in the state of South Carolina. Friday Night Flicks is a new addition. Had 100 people per show. Very affordable, very quick, very easy. So we're looking to add that as a permanent fixture next year. Maybe you do it twice a year. And then Merry Mauldin Christmas. Vendors had great sales, great event, good community feedback. Everybody loved Santa, having pictures with Santa out there. Train ride was good. Our Facebook marketing group had about 2,500 people said they wanted to come. We estimate there was about maybe 1,200 to 1,300 people that were there. Really well attended. Getting the theater side of things, Hunchback of Notre Dame, rave reviews, sold out shows. It really bolstered our theater company's prowess. To give you an example, High School Musical Junior we have coming up, we had 80 people audition for the slots for those roles. So very high interest. And speaking of it being sold out, we had to add an extra show. So we took in $30,845 in revenue. We spent $38,500. So you got about $7,000 in cost for that one. And some of those costs, like the set, are going to be spread through the rest of the production. So we'll have a little bit of synergy in that one. Holiday Spectacular, about half the tickets are sold right now. So get them while you can. And then Mauldin City Singers, their Sound of the Seasons event, which is not this weekend, but the next, 75% of the tickets are sold. So we're doing pretty good. We'll track to have about maybe $5,000 in revenue on those 2 shows right there. And then we had a couple of additions for arts education programming. We had a summer camp in 2023 that was wildly successful. It actually made money. We spent $9,000, we took in 11. So we're going to add that as a permanent addition to our summer lineup. And then we're going to be launching a spring theater class. Announcement went out today, and it'll be a 12-week program for both youth and adults. This is really trying to build that farm team that we want to have them come through the MTC pipeline. So that'll be coming up. January is when it'll start. Rental program is strong. Tenants in the building have strong registrations. Their schedules are full. We have a 7-month waiting list for our meeting rooms to get in there. So very in demand. And then we have a rotating workshops like sewing, ballroom dancing, cookie decorations, more coming in 2024, but they're starting to come online too. Looking into 24, Public Art Trail will be coming up. 3 semifinalists are producing concepts now. Hopefully have a finalist chosen early 24 and reveal that hopefully after Arts and Blues Jazz Festival. And then let's see, I got a whole lineup here. I'm gonna skip the what's we're going into the events for 24, but just know there's a lot, and I'll give you more updates when we get into January. For economic development activity, this is the big stuff. So we really stepped up business development in 23. I tried to make it my goal to get out and network with as many people as possible, considering I was relatively new, but also let people know that Mauldin was open for business. So some examples: Real Professionals Network, Contractors, Closers, and Connectors, Upstate Alliance, brokers, real estate agents, property owners. I tried to really beat the feet and knock on doors, and it's starting to pay off. We basically wanted to leverage the success stories of Bridgeway Station, Maverick Yards, Maverick Station to show that Mauldin is open for business. That was the mantra that I tried to take into every meeting that I went into. We earned the $25,000 Municipal Association grant. RFP response are going to be due on the 13th of this month. We'll have a finalist chosen by January and then get to work with a consultant on getting a new concept for our master development plan. And then the Brownfield Environmental Assessment grant. When I came on board, not a penny of that was spent. Maybe a couple $1,000 just for the continuation of the program. But now we've hit just about $100,000 in disbursements. So doing pretty good there as developers come to start to take down properties. Bridgeway Station, the main structure is complete. Tenants are outfitting their spots. Bridgeway Brewing and City Market Food Hall are going to open up this month, if not open already. Anybody gotten a pint yet? No? I'll have to go get one. I'll be the customer number 1. And then the other restaurant's going to slate to open up spring of 24. And then there are public and private events that are starting to be planned out there. Apartments are about 45% leased, and we're going to continue to market that site to developers with cooperation with Hughes Investments. As was mentioned, there's going to be ribbon cutting in spring of 24, and we were awarded a grant. This would be this past year, about a year ago, for the 10 at the Top Bridgeway event grant. And so we're going to work with Mauldin Police Department and our department to try to plan an event out that way. Maybe we can coincide it with the ribbon cutting and the groundbreak, or not the groundbreak, the ribbon cutting and bridge naming and all that stuff. But that's up here. That's not down here. For City Center, we're getting some meat and potatoes here. So for the Maverick Yards piece of City Center in the Maverick Yards, the building pads are complete. They're starting to scrape the roads and getting those kind of level. The townhome and the pickleball entertainment center are both being developed. The Jenkins Court and Jenkins Street. So this is where I have to go off script a little bit and talk a little bit, and I'll turn to you a little bit to help me explain this a little bit. The original plan, as was designed by Brandon, was to simultaneously construct the road and convert all the electrical to underground at the exact same time. It's a little bit of a chicken and egg problem for there. Co-Transco needs Duke Energy to move their poles out of the way so they can bury the storm water, right? Because we have yet to find a way to make water flow uphill. So it has to be on one certain side of the street. So the side that's the storm water has to be on is where the poles are. So Duke has to move their poles. Well, Duke can't move their poles until they can get onto private property to bury their lines in the conduit that Co-Transco will install for them. So we're waiting for Duke to get an easement or a right of way to move those power lines out of the way. And then Co-Transco can then bury the storm water and have that in place for that side of it. So Duke Energy right now is trying to negotiate with the adjacent property owners so they can try to ideally push the lines into an area where they can go ahead and convert everything. But if they can't convert, then at least keep the overhead lines aerially, move the poles out of the way so they can put the stormwater lines in and then go from there. So that's a lot. I'll stop at that point because I got more, but I want to stop right there and see if you have any questions about that or if we want to give any deeper explanation.
Anybody have anything for Mr. Charles?
All right. Road work, is gonna stop in about a week or two so that Duke can continue those negotiations. And then Co-Transco is gonna keep working with the adjacent property owners to help build out those components of the road without running into additional conflicts, like silt fencing or natural gas lines or things like that. And we talked about the pedestrian bridge. No need to beat that horse, but I had that on there too as well. Questions?
Wait, would you please cover the one part about the bridge?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, sorry.
okay.
I had naming of the bridge on here. I was like, we already did that one. Yeah. So the bridge is complete. UIG installed the safety rails that were at the arch there so that nobody could pull a Spider-Man and crawl up the side of the wall. So it's safe. It's not officially open, as we talked about, but it's softly opened from there. So we're meeting right now with, I think this is this week, with Hughes Investments to talk about how the city accepts that infrastructure as the agreement was outlined when it was first being designed. And so that's going to happen this week. We talk about that process. The walking trail itself is done. Again, not officially open, just softly opened. Public Works is going to design stormwater management improvements. And once those improvements are designed, we got to take those planned improvements with the trail and create an as-built easement that then Lawrence Electric, or in this case, New Horizon Energy, can accept as a final easement through their property. There.
Anything for Mr. Charles? Go ahead, Diane.
I did get to walk the bridge and trail this weekend. It was great.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful. It is, especially at night.
Anything else?
That's all.
All right, JR.
Thank you. I'll be on standby.
We have no unfinished business. We have no new business. Do we have any public comment here or online? We have committee concerns. Then we have one final piece of business.
For adjournment.
We have a motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
There discussion? Hearing none. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. And we are adjourned at 7:53.
I will call to order the special called city council meeting of Monday, December 4th, 2023. It is 7:53 PM approximately. Our invocation, pledge of allegiance.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Let us pray, please. Lord, thank you for this day and thank you for this council. Lord, please help us, guide us as we make decisions that are important to the city and the citizens. And all I ask is in Jesus' name, amen.
Just got new shock absorbers. Yeah. All right, the thing I always forget is let the records reflect that all members of council are present, along with our city administrator, Mrs. Steph Duncan, and our clerk to council, Miss Cindy Miller, along with our HR director, Mr. Mark Putnam. Appreciate everyone being here. Anyone online that we know of? All right, no one there. The only item before us is new business. I ask council's pleasure or motion to enter an executive session.
Mr. Chairman,
Reynolds.
make a motion, we enter into executive session to consider a personnel matter regarding the city administrator as allowed by state statute, section 30-40-70A1.
Thank you, Mr. Reynolds. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Allgood. Any discussion? Here none, all those in favor of entering into executive session as stated by Mr. Reynolds, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign. Hearing none. We will now consider ourselves to adjourn upstairs, to not adjourn, but to move upstairs in the conference rooms. Council is returned to chambers at approximately 9:55 PM. Someone like to report out? Mr. Rose.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to report out of executive session where we considered a personnel matter regarding the city administrator. No decisions were made and no votes were taken.
Thank you, sir. Any possible action on items discussed? Hearing none. What is the pleasure of council on adjournment? Mr. Crayley, in the motion, is there a second?
Second.
Second, Ms. King and various other members. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of adjournment say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign. Hearing none. We are adjourned. 9:56-ish.